departing on platform 8B in 10 minutes. Next train to New York City, platform 8B in 10 minutes.
Powers to be turn a blind eye to them.
What do these films have in common? If you guess that they were all made in Canada, you'd be right.
We get to run around down here as if we own the place.
But what else do they have in common? Upon looking closer, we discover a familiar influence upon our media, the presence of American culture. There are two primary forces behind this phenomenon: industrial and cultural factors. Let's start with the industrial side. Pendeker writes that the problems with Canadian film production is directly linked with the problems of distribution. Because of the USA's control and dominance over this aspect, every time Canada seems to push back, there is always the looming threat of US interference. No wonder Canada can't afford to disrupt trade relations with pesky screen quotas.
Oh, just watch me.
However, a ton of USA films are shot in Canada due to tax incentives. So we have jobs in the industry, but through American companies.
We're bringing back jobs
To Canada. And if you ever notice, the Canadians, when they need a big operation, when something happens, they come into the United States in many cases.
These industrial forces namely shape why American films come here to shoot. But why do Canadian productions, in turn, overtly act as though they are American? The next reason goes even deeper than this and leans towards this crisis of Canadian identity. Many scholars have written about this. William Beard discusses Canada's film successes through narratives that show what happens when films try to act American. Likewise, Andre Lazelle explains Canada's horror as representing national anxieties.
If this picture doesn't make you scream and squirm, you'd better see a psychiatrist.
So I guess the burning question is...
Should Canada do a better job of promoting itself through audiovisual means? Should the industry abandon these practices of self-Americanization? Does it matter?
It's like a trick you don't need.
A trick?
Yeah, exactly. What's so funny?
No, it's not a trick, it's a gimmick. A gimmick we don't need.
It's a gimmick you don't need.
A gimmick.
Certainly the issue of a central identity has always plagued Canadian culture. I actually think this is somewhat of a good thing. In the words of Trudeau I,
We're a different people from you, and we're a different people partly because of you. Living next to you is in some ways like sleeping with an elephant.
in other words, it is good to have a distinct identity, but not one based upon the ideology of nationalism, rather one based upon diversity. And how does this translate to film and TV representations? Canadian media doesn't have to pretend to be American, but it also doesn't need to overtly try to be Canadian either. There's no need to go out of the way to hide our Canadianness. Films can appeal to Canadian audiences without localizing the content. The fact that our cultures can be confused gives Canadian films more opportunity to become a hit, cloaked as American films minus a gimmick. Likewise, we can rely on our best directors to enter the big markets. This in itself is an act of cultural outreach and pride, helping to enforce our own narratives, our own Canadian identity built on diversity,